afternoon, New Orleans, or wherever you may be. It's Wednesday at 4, so that means it's nothing but an hour of cheerfulness and happiness and good news. With your host, Baldy the Blonde, I'm Tom Coates with the great Michelle Godin. Say hello, Michelle.
Hello, Michelle.
What are we talking about today? Again, nothing but good news.
It's all good news.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one sort of good news.
There is?
Yeah, and it comes out of Louisiana. And
okay.
Has some national implications, even though it's improperly named.
Tiny bit of good news. I know what you're talking about.
It's pretty good. It's called Missouri versus Biden. It's a case regarding free speech that originated out of Monroe, Louisiana, and we will talk about that later because there's a recent consent decree. It's not exactly what I would have wanted, but it's better than the alternative.
Better than a stick in the eye.
That's it.
All right, so what do you want to start out with? I'll defer to you. I'm tired.
Okay, so I think, we've been talking about the lead up to the war, and
not a war.
That's right.
It's a military action or whatever they're calling this. Go ahead.
The last war was World War II, according to, the technical names, because everything we've done since then.
Well, there was a global military action on terrorism or whatever.
There was that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things they call the police actions. I don't know what they ended up calling Vietnam, but it's 67,000.
It was just a conflict.
67,000 people died in the conflict that we did not declare war.
Oh, that's just the Americans.
Yes, it's not the civilians and the Viet Cong and So, even though the Constitution does, provide for a way to declare war. So anyway, I've been talking to people and I'm against it. I believed Donald Trump. I supported him because he was anti-war for 20 years and did not start a new war in his first term. So I'm quite disappointed. And when I express my disappointment, and I'm also not happy that we have zero accountability so far for the many abuses that we suffered under Biden, other than the border's been closed. That's it. I'm going to give him the credit for that. But when I say to people that, we started the war because, according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Speaker Mike Johnson, we struck Iran because Israel said they were going to do it, and we thought then that would place our assets, including our troops over there, at risk. So we had to join in. Instead of saying, excuse me, Israel, no. So it seems that in the great distance of the 4 weeks since that happened, everyone I talked to tells me they don't remember that. So I would like to play that again.
Yeah, we played it, I think it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
Those people aren't listening to our show.
They are. They just, I don't know. I guess it's selective hearing. I don't know.
Okay, well.
Brainwashing. I have no idea.
All right, well, let's play it again, Sam.
Here's why we're at war, according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed.
So what he was getting at is we had reason to believe Israel was going to strike Iran. If that happened, then Iran would retaliate against the U.S. and U.S. assets in that area.
Correct.
And they would be hitting the U.S. at full strength or nearly full strength. But if the U.S. went first, then when Iran retaliated, they wouldn't be doing it at full strength. That's basically what he said.
Yes.
So what he means really, reading between the lines, is Israel, by going first, the U.S. knew that Americans would die, be injured, and American infrastructure would be damaged, or at least at bases or other assets, right?
Yes.
So in that case, you don't tell Israel, look, Americans are going to get killed if you go first. Why don't you do that? Instead, I guess we're going to go first.
Yeah, why don't you say to Israel, listen, we give you billions of dollars a year, and the answer is no.
You're not doing it.
Yeah, you're not doing that. We are supposedly allies, and the answer is no. But instead, we trotted along like good little puppies, and now we are in what was supposed to be 4-day war is now 4 weeks. Iran's refusing to negotiate. I can't imagine why, since we've lured them to the table for diplomatic discussions and killed them, which is, I've never heard of such a thing, honestly, in diplomacy. And it's just usually not how America operates, so I don't understand it.
All right, the next clip is Mike Johnson. This is one we've played before.
Speaker of the House from Louisiana.
And he's essentially saying the same thing.
Israel.
Here, hang on. same thing Rubio said, except I think he says that he came directly from briefings with Trump.
Yes.
Israel was determined to act in their own defense here, with or without American support. Why? Because
in defense by going first. Okay, let's be clear on that. That's defense these days.
Israel faced what they deemed to be an existential threat. Iran was building missiles at a rapid clip to the point where our allies in the region could not keep up. Iran has long vowed to take out Israel, wipe it off the map, and they have long seen that as a critical threat to their very existence. Because Israel was determined to act with or without the U.S., our commander-in-chief and the administration and the officials I just named had a very difficult decision to make. They had to evaluate the threats to the U.S., to our troops, to our installations, to our assets in the region and beyond. And they determined, because of the exquisite intelligence that we had, that if Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets.
So why not tell them don't go?
Don't go.
Instead, we panic and go, I guess we better go because they're about to go.
Without, that's, from what I understand, the war against Iran has been war game for many, many years. And it's known to be a very terribly difficult situation, and it's proving itself to be that.
Notice in those clips they didn't say, we had intelligence that Iran was about to strike.
No,
they said, we
not.
had intelligence that Israel was about to strike.
Right, and Tulsi Gabbard specifically was questioned by Congress whether or not the intelligence community had information that that Iran had nuclear capabilities, and the answer was no. And so they pressed her on it, and she said, well, it's up to the president to decide what imminent threat is.
Oh, yeah, what a terrible answer that is.
Actually, I think it is the only answer she could give, because she repeatedly said...
Well, her answer could have been, you know what, I'm in over my head, I resign.
I'm glad she stayed. I'm glad she's there. Because
she's just part of the lie. She's just part of the lie. We need somebody who's not part of the lie.
No,
she is.
No.
They've lied us into war, and she's backing them up.
I don't know that she's backing them up. What she said was truth.
I have a clip for it.
Let me talk.
Unfortunately, I didn't clip it for today's show.
Wait, let me talk. She was asked, did the intelligence community determine that there was an imminent threat from Iran? And she said no.
That's right.
We did not.
Right.
Well, she put it on Trump, because that's where it belongs. So,
yeah, but what if they never told Trump? Then whose fault is it? Right? Does anybody...
No, that's a good point.
Exactly.
I don't know. I would think...
So somewhere it broke down.
And I have heard from Joe Kent, not me, obviously, but I've heard him say in numerous interviews that he did not feel that the debates were robust leading up to this.
Of course.
Right? And that in June of last year, they debated for a month what they were going to do. And then at the end of that 12-day war, we were told that the nuclear weapons were obliterated. So I don't know what to say, but I'm looking at the TV right now in the studio, and they were showing troops. I don't know what's going on, but
the 82nd Airborne was getting ready to be deployed. Last time I saw. So I had a clip on Lindsey Graham, but I don't want to give him any more airtime. I want to skip to this next one. This guy, next clip we're going to hear, this was a guy named Paul Begala. You might remember him.
I remember him.
From the Clinton administration. He was an advisor to President Bill Clinton.
Yep.
So he was on Real Time with Bill Maher over the weekend, and he was talking about what's going on with Cuba, because, of course, we now have sanctions against Cuba. The island's gone dark. There's a humanitarian crisis going on there of our making. Russia was trying to help by sending oil. And let's just hear what Mr. Begala recommends that we do about that.
Russia really is our enemy. And
okay, I'm going to stop it there. Russia really is our enemy. I have a question. Why?
Yeah. Don't ask that question. You're a Putin puppet.
I know we don't need to be. We could be allies. We totally could be allies.
Absolutely should be.
We're allied with some pretty bad people, in my opinion. We don't need to be enemies with anybody. We could be friends with everybody.
We could follow George Washington's advice.
Anyway, here we go.
Russia really is our enemy. And President Trump lifted sanctions on Putin and his oil industry when oil is sky high. Putin is the big winner. He's going to make a pile of money off this. All the other allies, the G7 countries all said, oh, God, don't lift those sanctions on Putin. He'll make a fortune. Now Putin is sending a huge oil tanker with 970,000 barrels of oil to supply the Cubans. It's going to arrive at Havana Harbor, and we're going to have a showdown. And this president has blown up a lot of speedboats full of cocaine. Okay. He needs to confront Putin in the ocean with that tanker and stop it and turn it around or sink it to the bottom of the ocean. Show some guts with Putin for once in your life.
Think about that. Think about what he just said. Now, what did Kennedy do with Khrushchev in the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62? Wow. He negotiated their way out.
Of course.
Right? And this guy with over oil, that was over nukes. This is over oil for humanitarian aid. And he's saying, let's sink them, turn them around.
Sounds like a great idea.
Nuclear power, Russia.
Yeah. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. I'm Michelle Godin here with Tom Coates every Wednesday at 4. And you can check us out on baldyandtheblonde.com, which will link you to all of our prior shows in this iteration and soon in the earlier iteration of the show where we interviewed a lot of very important people. So for right now, though, we are focused on, unfortunately... It's just all bad news. We're about to change into a food show. We kind of can't take it. So when we left off before the break, Bill Clinton's former advisor, Paul Begala, was saying that we needed to sink the Russian tanker that's coming to help Cuba with oil. We need to sink it. We need to confront
and he got
Putin,
applause.
And he got applause in Bill Maher's liberal audience. Anyway, I was trying to look up on the break what Bill's response was, but I couldn't find it. So we're going to move on to a discussion of human rights abuses.
I came across this really just a couple of days ago, and I thought it's an interesting topic for discussion. Even it's a little dated, but even though it's a little dated, I think it's important because nobody has heard of this. It's just not a thing. I've never heard it brought up.
I have not heard of it.
It goes back to a UNICEF bulletin from February of 2013. So I told you it's a little dated, but hang in there with me. The title of it is Children in Iranian Military Detention. So the reason I just wanted to bring it up, because you have a lot of people, and us included, who, not that we support Iran and their government and all that, but it's not like they're entirely the bad guys in this. They're the ones getting attacked just as well as they're doing the attacking. Right. But for those people, us included, I think it's just a little eye-opening to see what is actually going on there, what was discovered by international investigators who were allowed in. To their credit, at least they allowed them in. But I want to start out with a 2014 news report. There's a news show out of Australia called Four Corners. I think it's like there's 60 Minutes kind of. And Iran actually let them in. They didn't let their cameras into the walls of these detention centers or prisons, but they did let a reporter in without a camera, and then he came out and reported. So I just want to hear a minute of this and then read from that report.
Children are brought here for trial. Ophir military prison. The army would not let Four Corners film inside.
I've been behind these walls 3 times. I saw children shuffling across the courtyard, handcuffed and shackled. Some hearings lasted 60 seconds. I saw one boy shout the name of his prison so his mother would know where he was being held. I saw the judge convict some children without even once looking at them. Through it all, what I saw was a conveyor belt of convicted children.
According to the military court's own records, their annual report, the courts have a conviction rate of around 99.74%.
Typically, a boy convicted of throwing stones.
Are you getting this? Tried in military courts.
Kids being tried in military courts. Wow.
Will be sentenced to about 3 months imprisonment. The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, last year released a scathing report. It found that children had been threatened with death, physical violence, solitary confinement, and sexual assault against themselves or a family member.
The report found that ill treatment was widespread, systematic, and institutionalized throughout the system, from the moment that the child was arrested right up until the sentencing process.
So the point is, we just want to show just how oppressive this regime is in an area the world really has never paid much attention to, even though there was this report, but it never got the light of day.
I don't recall hearing of it before.
This is like 12 to 17-year-olds tried in military prisons. Now, I actually...
For what, murder?
For throwing rocks.
That's what I thought.
Serious, during like protests and stuff.
Yeah.
And in fact, I accidentally kind of talked over him. He was talking about 3 months in prison for throwing stones. That's what he was talking about. But I actually downloaded the report. Once I saw this little thing that I just played, I thought, well, I'm going to get that report. I found it. And then I highlighted some spots, and Michelle and I are going to take turns just kind of reading a little bit, just to hear how horrific and egregious this is. Treatment of children in Iranian military detention. Starts out with each year, approximately 700 children aged 12 to 17 are arrested, interrogated, and detained by Army, police, and security agents. UNICEF identified examples of practices that amount to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment according to the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Convention Against Torture.
Wow.
All right, Michelle, you want to pick it up from there?
Many children are arrested in the middle of the night, awakened at their homes by heavily armed soldiers. Some children are arrested in the streets near their homes, near bypass roads or checkpoints. Many.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yep. For some of the children, what follows is chaotic and frightening, in which furniture and windows are broken, accusations and verbal threats are shouted, and family members are forced to stand outside in their nightclothes as the accused child is forcibly removed from the home and taken away with vague explanations.
Okay, now that was regarding the arrest. That was the arrest section. Then the transfer to the interrogation site section is this. It says the child is blindfolded and led to a waiting military vehicle for transfer to an interrogation site. Children are often prevented from saying goodbye to their parents and from putting on appropriate clothing for the journey. Some endure physical or verbal abuse. Some suffer from painful restraints or from being forced to lie on the hard floor of the vehicle. The transfer process can take many hours and often includes intermediate stops at military bases where further ill treatment is reported, including prolonged exposure to the elements and a lack of water, food, or toilet facilities. And then after that, it goes on to the interrogation.
Yes, and in the interrogation, the children are not accompanied by a lawyer or a family member. Can you imagine? During the interrogation, despite the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which requires, quote, every child deprived of his or her liberty shall have the right to prompt access to legal and other appropriate assistance.
And then, let's see, skipping forward, the interrogation mixes intimidation, threats, and physical violence, forcing confessions. And then moving forward, just real quick, I just wanted to say this. It says, this is part of the report, children have been threatened with death, physical violence, solitary confinement, and sexual assault against themselves or a family member. That is in the report titled Children in Iranian Military Detention. And now I have to confess something.
Yes, Tom.
I lied.
Yes, you
and
did.
Our entire currency is telling the truth, but I lied. The title of that bulletin is Children in Israeli Military Detention. That's our great and special ally.
Yeah, it's something that it's kind of shocking that it hasn't received more attention, and I don't know what to say about it, but I was pretty shocked to read it. I did not know this, so.
Well, that's the thing. That's part of the news story.
Yeah.
Is it nobody knows?
Nobody knows because it's. So
the underlying story is this. The
Right.
secondary story is nobody knows. They don't report this stuff.
No, and just like the attacks on Christian churches in the Middle East by Israeli soldiers are not reported, and the killings recently of priests. So,
well,
I just don't think that coverage is not fair. That's all I can say. And given that we are at war right now at the behest of Israel, according to Secretary of State Rubio and Speaker Mike Johnson, these kind of things need to be reported.
Nothing and cheerful Baldy and the Blonde are back with nothing but good news and happiness for a full hour every week. I'm the amazing Baldwin here with the brilliant blonde one, Michelle Godin.
Thank you, sir.
So we closed out last segment talking about the evils of the Israeli detention system with with Palestinian kids primarily, but I shouldn't even say primarily, but a lot of Palestinian kids, but but just in general, they tried kids in military courts, held them in military prisons.
In cages.
Outside. Cages. Outside in snowstorms. All that's true. And threatened with death and sexual assault and all that. But, okay, so that was in the UNICEF bulletin we read from was from February of 2013. Later that year, there's the article in the Jerusalem Post talked about how accusing the Israeli government of torturing Palestinian children over minor crimes. Okay, so then from there, fast forward a couple months to early 2014, there's some article posted by a place called Camera. It stands for something. They allegedly were debunking that Jerusalem Post article.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, wow, I want to make sure I get this right before I go on air with it.
Right.
Did these things not really happen? So they said they debunked it. I read it's a long, long article with a lot of interviews with a lot of Israeli officials. And I thought, well, let's read the quotes. What are they saying, these officials, to debunk this? This is the worst debunking ever. You're not going to believe this. Okay. Their whole excuse for why that story's not true was they did not limit it to Palestinians. They openly admitted, yes, we did all those things, but that Jerusalem Post article said we did it to Palestinian kids, which was true, but we did it to a lot more than just that, and they considered that debunking. Now, I think the reason they do that way, they can just put in a headline, we debunked whatever article, and then people who don't dig deep enough,
right.
Then people like you and me say, well, yeah, the Jerusalem Post said, that's been debunked.
Debunked.
Because they don't see what the debunking was, which isn't debunking at all, is, we do it to everybody.
Yeah.
Not just the Palestinians. So therefore, we debunked your article that says we do it to Palestinians.
We are equal opportunity abusers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they openly admitted to that.
It's kind of a common technique, actually, if you want to debunk a story. So, for example, and this is getting off, what we were supposed to talk about, but Candace Owens and a guy named Baron Coleman have really been doing a good job on the issues and glaring holes in the Charlie Kirk investigation. So rather than address any of the really legitimate glaring holes, the Turning Point people came out and debunked some silly thing that neither of them said, that some random person said something about.
Yeah, they strawman something.
Yeah, it's just like that Erica went shopping when she shouldn't have. And neither Candace Owens nor Baron Coleman said that.
Yeah.
But now they're like, we debunked it. We debunked everything. Right. Yeah. So
they set up a straw man and knock it down and then say, see,
it's debunked.
Except they never said that.
Right.
All right, then you had an interesting thing that you wanted to talk about.
I do.
I don't understand Missouri v. Biden, but you do.
I do.
I'm going to throw it your way.
Yes, I do. I've talked about it many times on this show, that as we all know and remember, we were not allowed to question the mRNA experimental shot.
Well, you mean like on social media particularly,
That
right?
is correct.
Yeah.
On Facebook, Twitter. Twitter was previously owned by someone else. And on YouTube, anywhere. Anything you did, you've got shadow banned or outright banned. Many people were stuck in their houses, couldn't do anything because of this barrage of propaganda, which we now know it wasn't true that you needed to be 6 feet apart. It wasn't true that you needed to have this stupid shot that didn't work, and that is an experimental shot for which the companies producing it have no liability. And so, amazingly, a suit was filed by the attorney generals in Louisiana and Missouri. At the time, the attorney general in Louisiana was Jeff Landry, the now governor. And a most amazing thing happened where there was this fantastic judge named Terry Doty in Monroe, Louisiana, who issued an order, and it's called a temporary or permanent injunction, prohibiting the government from continuing to censor. And before we get further into the case and where it now stands, because the Supreme Court did take away quite a bit of it, I want you to hear Dr. Michael Yeadon, who is the former vice president at Pfizer's UK research facility, who later co-founded a biotech firm that was purchased for $325 million.
So he's a player.
He's a player in the vaccine world. And these were the kind of things that you were not allowed to hear because Biden had issued warnings and was going after all of the social media companies to censor people like this guy. So listen up.
of these molecular structures in the vaccines, injections, has no other purpose but to injure and kill. I've worked over 30 years with colleagues in what's called rational drug design. Every synthetic medicine that is something not purified from nature, it consists of a series of atoms and molecules and formulations. Every single component in that vial, as it turns out, has to be chosen by a person. They're not there randomly. They're not there as a natural product. Someone decided to put them in there. And you put them in there because you have particular objectives, for the drug to be absorbed quickly or slowly, for it to go everywhere versus a certain area of the body, and so on. When I looked at these, I declare them toxic by design. They are intentionally harmful. And I think that fits perfectly with the lie you've been told about a pandemic. There isn't one. The purpose of the pandemic, I think, was to damage the economy, to get us used to doing what we're told under a mock emergency, and to roll up our sleeves to receive these dangerous materials. I think some self-appointed group of very rich people have decided they don't like 8 billion people being on the planet and want it to be a much smaller number. I don't have a copy of the script, but I can deduce what they're doing.
Okay, so
oh my God.
Here's the thing. Maybe he's incorrect in the way he connected those dots, but he needs to be shown to be wrong, not just shut down. No, in other words, they want to censor everybody instead of show why they're wrong. But he makes a compelling case. There's enough dots out there that you could connect them.
Did you hear what he said? It's
absolutely.
Unbelievable.
No, but it's outlandish, and it really. So he needs to be able to prove that. But if you are censored, you can't prove it. They were shutting everyone down over making this type of assertion. They would shut you down if you just said you shouldn't have to wear a mask, let alone the stuff he said.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm saying is, what do you and I know? We're not scientists. We don't know this stuff. We don't know for sure that he's right. I'm not saying that he's right. I'm saying that has an opinion.
Yes.
He's not a nobody. He was a VP at Pfizer in that field for 16 years, formed a company that some giant pharmaceutical bought for $325 million. He's a player with an opinion, and he said, basically what he's saying is anything that's in there, any ingredient that's in there is in there chosen for a specific reason by a specific person. And then when he analyzed what was there, he saw it to be harmful. And it was intentional. That's his contention.
And it was designed to kill.
That's what he says.
He says it was designed because there are people behind this, I guess, injection and other methods of crowd control and people control that are trying to depopulate the earth. That's what he said.
All right, can we play the Fauci clip?
Oh, my God.
Why would anybody want to get that vaccine? Shall we see hear what Fauci had to say?
Yeah.
This was Anthony Fauci giving an interview for some audio book he had done.
After interrogation, children are brought here.
Wrong one.
Whoops.
Fauci, where'd you go? Oh, you know what? I don't think that's my bad. I didn't download him.
Well, just play him straight up from the internet.
Well, I don't have it. I have to find it after the break or something.
I'll send it to you.
It's not like I have it right in front of me.
What are you on, Baldy in the Bond? Email?
I could be. Yeah.
Okay, I'll get it for you after I can email it to you during the break.
But anyway,
it's unbelievable what he says.
It's pretty shocking. But go ahead with Missouri v. Biden.
Yeah. So Missouri v. Biden was decided in favor of various doctors like Jay Bhattacharya, reporters like Jim Hoft from, I believe he's from Breitbart, Dr. Aaron Kheriaty, all sorts of journalists and medical professionals, etc., who were being censored, and they sued Biden and a lot of the social media companies. And the judge out of Louisiana said, let's see where he says it. Okay. First of all, he published his decision, I love this, on the 4th of July, and started with a quote from the Friends of Voltaire. I may disapprove of what you say, but I would defend to the death your right to say it. And that used to be the way Americans looked at the First Amendment until the COVID nonsense. And then he goes on to say, this case is about the free speech clause in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The explosion of social media platforms has resulted in unique free speech issues. This is especially true in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is the really good sentence. If the allegations made by plaintiffs are true, The present case arguably involves the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. In their attempts to suppress alleged disinformation, the federal government, and particularly the defendants here, are alleged to have blatantly ignored the First Amendment's right to free speech. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. We were discussing censorship and legal challenges to the government censoring everybody during COVID so that we couldn't learn about, alternative treatments. You couldn't complain about the vaccine. You couldn't complain about the 6-foot distancing. You couldn't complain about wearing a mask, all of which we later found out was indeed based on lies and misinformation.
Sure, all those complaints you had were legitimate.
Legit, absolutely legit. And this is America, where we used to be able to... The idea that Americans stayed home like good little sheep is really upsetting to me still. And I've got to say, you did not see that in rural areas. It was just big cities where everybody was like, bah, bah, like little sheep.
People get afraid of going to jail.
I wasn't. Yeah.
I wasn't. Everybody ignored it where I lived.
Me. Yeah, everybody ignored it.
But the thing is, but I didn't live in an urban area at the time.
I did, but I bought a house across the lake as a result.
But I can't tell you what I would have done had I lived in an urban area. That's an if, and I'm hypothetical. I don't know what I would do.
I know what I did. I did not go out here because you couldn't. You had to have passports. I was not about to participate in a passport program for vaccines in a country where you don't need an ID to vote, but you need a passport with your medical history to go to a restaurant. Okay? It's insanity.
Yeah,
right?
I went to one up by Riverbend, and they let us sit outside.
How kind of them.
But we couldn't go inside.
It really wasn't the restaurant's fault, but...
no, not really, because they're afraid of getting shut down.
Had everybody stood up and said, no, we will not participate in this, I think, the idea was that everybody was compliant. And those that weren't could not be heard because of the government censoring.
Correct.
So... Long story short, Judge Doty out of Louisiana in a case called Missouri v. Biden, because it was Louisiana and Missouri that sued Biden, along with a bunch of doctors and journalists who filed the suit. But it aggravates me that it's named Missouri, because Missouri got their name first in the case. But it all comes out of a Louisiana court. And the judge really issued such a scathing decision. It was so great. And then the Supreme Court, the Fifth Circuit basically went along with it. And then the Supreme Court, with the ever disappointing, mealy-mouthed, pathetic Amy Coney Barrett, decided that they had no standing, which apparently no one has standing for anything anymore, to assert their rights. And with regard to a permanent injunction. So they kicked it back to the district court, back to Judge Doty, back to Louisiana. And he decided to enforce the government's edicts and executive orders regarding free speech, because Trump did do something really, really good, which was issue an executive order that covered free speech. And, of course, unfortunately, let me read you this part. President Trump signed an executive order restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. And he directed the United States Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That ought to work well.
Absolutely do nothing ever. He called for the federal government to, 1, identify and take actions to correct past misconduct related to censoring protected speech. So Pam Bondi, is supposed to be looking into how to identify and take actions to correct past misconduct.
It's on her desk. She'll get right to it.
Yes, it's right there under the Epstein files, next to the Mar-a-Lago raid, next to the numerous ridiculous cases against Trump, and most importantly, next to election fraud. Nothing is happening.
Nothing.
Happening. She's done absolutely nothing. All right, but
which is her job. That's why she's there.
That is right. He also asked that she investigate the activities from the last 4 years that targeted First Amendment protected speech of Americans, and to submit a report God, with recommendations for appropriate remedial actions to take based on the findings of the report. So it's up to Pam to identify the abuses.
I'm sure it'll be a sternly worded report.
Yes, it will be.
Okay, but now get to the details of the consent decree, because here's where the news gets not so
Yeah,
awesome.
it's not so good in this part. So because the Supreme Court said that the decision only applied to these plaintiffs that they left in the case. They kicked most of them out, so they didn't have standing, but they left a few people. A couple of them had to leave because, like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who was amazing, a fantastic doctor, that was censored completely. And, you know, he's a Stanford... anyway, I just can't even talk about it. And so he got kicked out of the case, too. But that was... Anyway, so end of the day, the case only applies to the remaining plaintiffs.
So we, the people, get nothing out of the deal.
We're waiting on Pam's report. I'm sorry
Keep on waiting.
Yeah.
Keep on waiting.
But still, he tried. This judge really, really tried.
Oh,
and what I don't
yeah.
what I don't like is that he had them on a schedule because they still should have tried the case. And any of you all that have ever had a lawsuit or been involved in litigation, criminal, civil, whatever, you know that at any point, and I am a lawyer for those that don't know, at any point a case can settle. The parties are encouraged to settle, to work something out. However, in this case, I would have preferred if the United States would have, if the plaintiffs would not have entered in to a consent judgment because they were conducting discovery and finding more and more evidence of the extent of the censorship and abuse. So,
plus, then you have a precedent.
And you would have had a precedent.
Yeah.
Because we currently have a precedent it's not that important because it was based on an injunction. An injunction is kind of hard to get. But this was the actual case on the merits, and it would have been a great thing to have a trial on that. But unfortunately, the Trump administration has entered into a consent judgment because even though they didn't do it, they're now the executive branch.
Right.
But Pam's going to write a report.
It'll be out any minute.
Any minute. So that's where we stand on that. I really have to say I can't say enough good things about Judge Doty, who wrote the original opinion, which is a beautiful work of constitutional magnitude. It's just really good, but too bad.
You know, it's funny. I do remember reading that when it first came out, and what made it so hilarious was that it was written. I mean, it was written like an 11th grade kid being smarmy.
Yeah.
I thought judges wrote in these.
No.
I didn't know.
No, I'd have to disagree in case he's like, I didn't think he wrote like an 11th grade.
No. I mean, when he started talking about Denny's and all that.
Oh, yeah, that was Judge Ho. That's a different judge.
Sorry.
That's
my bad, wrong judge.
No, that's okay.
I'm just going to go take a nap.
I love that guy. I love Judge Ho.
That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, he's the one that said, hey, since when is a federal court like a drive-by Denny's, right? Yeah, because that's a whole that has to do with turning the planes around in midair. You know, that was a different case.
Oh, yeah. So I'm so wrong.
Yeah, it's okay.
You know what? You should just do the show alone next week because I have no idea what I'm talking about. I clipped Fauci, but didn't drag it into the folder so we couldn't play it. Oh, okay, but I can summarize what he said.
Yes.
He said he was and he said it loud and proud.
It was great.
That because the question, he was in an interview, and the question was, well, what do we do? Like forced vaccinations? I hate to even use that term.
Yeah, Fauci.
Right? Well, that was the question. The question was thrown to Fauci, what about forced vaccinations? And then the questioner said, I don't even like to use that term. Fauci, he didn't use that term. He says, oh, well, no, here's what you do. You get these universities and these workplaces and these tech companies. It's like, hey, you want to bank with us? You want to come work at our place? You want to come to our school? You're going to get a vaccination. And that will shut down all their ideological BS.
Yes.
But he actually said the word, so I had to clip it.
Yeah.
But because he actually cursed in the interview, and then that interview was played in a hearing, and it was questioned by, what's this guy's name, Jim Jordan?
Yeah.
Jim Jordan questioning him, and he played that recording at the hearing, so he had Fauci dead to rights, and Fauci danced around like, well, I didn't really mean, well, I heard what you said.
I heard what you said.
What you said.
He was an arrogant you know what, and he just said, too bad. If you want to participate in society, you can get the vaccine, buddy.
Right.
Buddy.
And
he said buddy.
He did.
Yeah.
He said it loud and proud, and then could not possibly walk that back, but tried. Because he knew he was wrong.
Well, he's not just wrong. He's diabolical.
He is.
I mean, I don't know what happened, why the world forgot what he did during AIDS and Ebola.